My name is Lisa Granger, and after 12 years of blood, sweat, and endless late nights at Holwell, and Knox Dana Colwell fired me with a smug grin plastered across her face. It was a Thursday afternoon, the kind of dreary day where the sky outside the office windows matched the grey of my mood. I sat across from her in her corner office, watching her lean back in her leather chair, twirling a pen between her perfectly manicured fingers. That smile, it wasn't just smug, it was victorious, like she'd finally checkmated me after years of quiet rivalry. Lisa, I'm sorry, but we're restructuring and your position is no longer sustainable, she said, her tone dripping with false sympathy. I wanted to scream to flip her polished mahogany desk over, but instead I just nodded, my hands clenched into fists under the table. I'd seen this coming for months. Dana had never liked me, not since I'd been promoted to senior project manager over her 5 years ago. She'd clawed her way up since then, becoming head of operations, and I knew she'd been waiting for her chance to shove me out. But what she didn't know, what that termination smile couldn't possibly account for, was that I'd been preparing for this exact moment for the last 6 months. I'd seen the writing on the wall when the whispers of layoffs started, when my projects were reassigned without explanation. Instead of crumbling, I'd started building my exit strategy piece by meticulous piece. Her smile would be gone before Tuesday. I promised myself that as I walked out of her office, my heels clicking against the polished floor, my heart pounding with a mix of fury and determination. Walking back to my cubicle, I felt the eyes of my colleagues on me, a mix of pity and curiosity. I could almost hear their thoughts: poor Lisa, another casualty of the corporate machine. I packed my things in silence, a framed photo of my daughter Emily, a stack of notebooks, a potted plant I'd somehow kept alive for 3 years. Every item felt heavier than it should have, each one a reminder of the life I'd built here. 12 years, 12 years of missed school plays, of working weekends, of proving myself over and over just to be tossed aside like an outdated piece of software. But as I zipped up my bag, I reminded myself that this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of something Dana couldn't predict. I drove home that evening with the radio off the silence in the car, amplifying the storm in my head. Emily was staying with my sister for the weekend, so the house was empty when I got there. I dropped my bag by the door and headed straight for my home office, a small corner of the living room cluttered with files and post-it notes. 6 months ago, I'd started freelancing on the side, taking small consulting gigs to test the waters. I'd built a portfolio networked with old clients, even drafted a business plan for a boutique consulting firm of my own. I pulled out my laptop and opened the spreadsheet I'd been updating, obsessively. Contacts, leads, potential partners. Dana thought she'd broken me, but she'd just handed me the final push I needed to leap. But as I stared at the screen, doubt crept in like a cold draft through a cracked window. What if I wasn't ready? What if I'd miscalculated everything? 12 years at Holwell and Knox meant stability, a steady paycheck, benefits for Emily. Freelancing was a gamble. Late payments, dry spells, the constant hustle. I thought of my daughter's face, her wide brown eyes so full of trust. I couldn't let her down. I couldn't let Dana win. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, itching to send the email I'd drafted weeks ago, the one that could change everything. It was risky, bold, maybe even reckless, but it would hit Dana right where it hurt most. I leaned back in my chair, my pulse racing. The email was addressed to a key client, someone Dana had been courting for months, someone I'd worked with for years before she took over. If I sent it, there'd be no going back. My cursor hovered over the send button, my mind replaying that smug grin, the way she'd dismissed me like I was nothing. Could I really do this? Could I turn her victory into her downfall by Tuesday? The answer hung in the air, heavy and uncertain, as the clock on my desk ticked louder than ever. I sat there staring at the glowing screen of my laptop, the cursor blinking over the send button like a heartbeat. The email I'd drafted was a grenade pull the pin and everything could explode. It wasn't just a message to a client. It was a declaration of war against Dana, against Holwell, and Knox, against the 12 years I'd let define me. My fingers trembled, not from fear, but from the sheer weight of what I was about to do. I could still hear Dana's voice in my head, that faux sympathetic tone, as she'd cut me loose, her smile sharp enough to slice through my pride. This email wasn't just revenge, it was proof that I wasn't disposable, that I'd been the backbone of their operations all along. I leaned forward, my breath shallow, and reread the message. It was professional, polished, but the subtext was a dagger. I'd addressed it to Victor Henshaw, a client I'd nurtured for nearly a decade, someone who'd trusted me with multi-million-dollar projects long before Dana swooped in to claim the glory. In the email, I offered my freelance consulting services, highlighted my intimate knowledge of his company's needs, and subtly hinted at the recent changes at Holwell and Knox that might impact their partnership. I knew Victor would read between the lines. I knew he'd question Dana's leadership, and I knew she'd feel the ground shift under her when he started asking questions. But as my finger hovered, doubt clawed at me again. What if Victor didn't bite? What if he forwarded the email to Dana out of loyalty to the firm? I could see her now sitting in that corner office, her lips curling into that same victorious smirk as she realized I'd tried to undermine her. She'd have proof to drag my name through the mud, to paint me as bitter unprofessional. My stomach churned at the thought. I'd spent 6 months preparing for this, backing up every document, every client contact, every system workaround I'd ever created. The company's operational lifeblood ran through me. I knew their processes better than anyone, better even than Dana. But knowing that didn't make this leap any less terrifying. I pushed back from the desk, pacing the small space of my home office. The silence of the empty house pressed against me, broken only by the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. Emily's laughter wasn't here to ground me tonight. It was just me and this decision, this gamble, that could either rebuild my life or shatter it. I thought about the last time I'd seen Victor at a conference 3 months ago. He'd shaken my hand, his grip firm, and said, "Lisa, you've always been the one I trust to get it done." Those words echoed now, a lifeline in the storm of my uncertainty. Could I bank on that trust? Could I really turn it into a weapon against Dana by Tuesday? I stopped pacing, my eyes catching on the framed photo of Emily I'd brought home from my cubicle. She was 6 in the picture, gap-toothed and beaming, holding a soccer trophy she'd won, despite barely kicking the ball. I'd missed that game working late on a deadline for Victor's company. The guilt of that memory stung, but it also fueled me. I wasn't just fighting for myself, I was fighting for her, for a future where I didn't have to choose between a paycheck and her smile. If I didn't send this email, I'd be admitting defeat, letting Dinah's dismissal be the final word on my worth. I couldn't do that. I wouldn't. Returning to the laptop, I sat down with a newfound resolve, though my heart still raced like I was about to skydive without a parachute. I thought about the other files I'd saved on my external drive, every project plan, every strategy deck, every workaround I'd engineered to keep Holwell and Knox running smoothly. Dana had no idea how much I'd carried, how much I'd shielded her from over the years. She'd learn soon enough, though. If Victor took my offer, others would follow. I'd built a network she couldn't touch, a reputation she couldn't erase. My finger inched closer to the send button, the clock on my desk ticking like a countdown. But just as I was about to click, my phone buzzed on the desk, the screen lighting up with a name I hadn't expected: Victor Henshaw. My breath caught in my throat. Why was he calling me now, hours after I'd been fired? Had Dana already reached out to him? Or was this the sign I'd been waiting for? My hand froze, torn between answering the call and sending the email that could change everything. My phone buzzed insistently on the desk. Victor Henshaw's name glowing like a warning light in the dim room. My heart slammed against my ribs, a cold sweat prickling at the back of my neck. I stared at the screen, frozen, the weight of that unsent email still hanging over me like a guillotine. Why was he calling me now at this hour, mere hours, after Dana had sliced through my career with her polished cruelty? Had she already spun her version of the story, painting me as the problem, the loose end they'd finally snipped? Or was this something else, something I hadn't anticipated? I hesitated, my hand hovering over the phone, torn between the urge to answer and the fear of what I might hear. The laptop screen glared back at me, the send button still taunting a loaded gun I hadn't yet fired. If I picked up, I'd be stepping into unknown territory without my ammunition ready. But if I ignored him, I might miss the very opportunity I'd been banking on. My mind raced through scenarios, Victor asking why I'd left Holwell, and Knox Victor offering condolences, or worse, Victor confronting me about something Dana had already whispered in his ear. Each possibility felt like a trap tightening around my chest. Finally, I swiped to answer, my voice catching as I forced a calm, "Hello, Victor." There was a pause on the other end, a crackle of static that stretched my nerves thinner. Then his familiar baritone came through, steady, but laced with something I couldn't quite place, concern maybe, or curiosity. "Lisa, I'm glad I caught you. I just heard the news. Are you okay?" His words hit like a punch, but not the kind I'd braced for. He sounded genuine, almost worried. My guard wavered, a flicker of hope daring to surface. Did he not know the full story? Or was this a test? I swallowed hard, scrambling for the right response. "I'm managing Victor. It's been a rough day." I kept it vague, professional, but inside I was counting down to the collapse. I couldn't tell him everything, not yet. Not until I knew where this conversation was heading. I glanced at the laptop, the email still open, its words burning into my conscience. If he asked the wrong question, if he pushed too hard, I might spill more than I intended. Or worse, I might lose the nerve to send it at all. He sighed, the sound heavy through the line. "I've worked with you for nearly a decade, Lisa. I know how much you've put into Holwell and Knox. Frankly, I'm shocked they'd let someone like you go. What happened?" There it was, the question I'd dreaded. My pulse quickened, a bitter taste rising in my throat. How could I explain Dana's betrayal without sounding petty, without letting the raw anger seep through? I couldn't tell him I'd been discarded like an outdated piece of software, replaced by her shiny new vision. Not yet. But I also couldn't lie, not to Victor, whose trust had been my lifeline for so long. It was a strategic decision. I managed the words tasting like ash. A restructuring, they called it. I'm focusing on what's next now. I hoped he'd read the undercurrent, the unspoken plea for him to dig deeper without me having to say more. There was another pause, longer this time, and I could almost hear him piecing things together. My fingers tightened around the phone, the silence louder than any words. Then he said, "I see. Well, I'll be honest, I'm not thrilled with this. You've been my point person for years. I don't know if I trust anyone else at that firm to handle our account the way you have." My breath caught, a surge of adrenaline flooding me. Was this an opening, a crack in the door I could push through? I wanted to blurt out everything, how I'd already accepted a position with Bright Path, one of Holwell and Knox's fiercest competitors, how I was ready to take my expertise elsewhere, how the client presentation they were banking on for next quarter was locked behind systems only. I understood. But I bit my tongue, knowing I had to play this carefully. One wrong move, and I'd tip my hand too soon. "Victor, I appreciate that. More than you know," I said, my voice steadier now, though my mind was a storm. "I'm exploring new opportunities, and I'd love to discuss how I can still support you independently if needed." I dangled the bait, my heart pounding as I waited for his reaction. Would he bite, or would he retreat behind corporate loyalties I hadn't anticipated? The line crackled again, and then he spoke, his tone shifting to something sharper, more decisive. "Let's meet tomorrow. There's something I need to run by you, something urgent. Urgent. The word sent a jolt through me, my imagination spiraling. What could be so pressing that he needed to see me in person right after my firing? Had Dana already fumbled something with his account? Or was there a bigger play at work? Something I hadn't seen coming? As I agreed to the meeting, setting a time and place, a new kind of dread settled in my chest. I was stepping onto a battlefield I wasn't sure I was ready for, with stakes higher than I'd ever gambled before. I hung up the phone with Victor, my hand trembling as I set it down on the desk. The word urgent echoed in my mind, a relentless drumbeat of uncertainty. What could be so pressing that he needed to meet tomorrow? My thoughts spun like a tornado, tearing through every possibility. Had Dana already botched something critical with his account in the mere hours since I'd been pushed out? Or was there a deeper game at play, something involving me that I hadn't yet pieced together? I rubbed my temples, trying to quiet the storm in my head, but the unease only burrowed deeper. I glanced at the clock on the wall, barely past 7:30 a.m. on this cursed Monday. I'd planned to spend the morning finalising my transition to Brightpath, tying up loose ends and maybe, just maybe, finding a moment to breathe after the gut punch of being let go. Instead, I'd shown up at my home office as usual, coffee in hand, calm and composed, pretending the world hadn't just imploded. I'd logged into my systems, ready to export a few personal files before Horwell and Knox could lock me out. But by 8:00 a.m., the nightmare began. One by one, the systems started shutting down. Vendor portals, project databases, asset libraries, all tied to my credentials, flashed error messages, or simply refused to load. My screen became a graveyard of access denied pop-ups, each one a tiny dagger to my already bruised pride. Panic spread through me like wildfire. I clicked frantically refreshing pages, entering passwords again and again, as if sheer willpower could override the digital barricade. My breath came in shallow bursts, my mind racing to understand what was happening. Had Dana ordered Ike to cut me off so swiftly, so ruthlessly? Or was this some kind of glitch, a cruel coincidence on top of an already unbearable day? I opened my email, desperate to send a message to someone, anyone at the firm, to demand answers, but even that froze, a spinning wheel mocking my every attempt. My hands hovered over the keyboard. Useless as a cold realization sank in. I was being erased systematically and without mercy. I leaned back in my chair, the room suddenly feeling smaller, the air thicker. 10 years of my life, 10 years of late nights, impossible deadlines, and unwavering loyalty, reduced to nothing in the span of a morning. I thought of the countless times I'd stayed late to troubleshoot for clients like Victor, the personal sacrifices I'd made to keep Holwell and Knox's reputation spotless. And for what? To be discarded like a used tissue the moment Dana decided I no longer fit her glossy vision of the future. My chest tightened, a bitter mix of anger and grief swelling inside me. I wanted to scream, to throw something, but all I could do was stare at the locked-out screens, my reflection glaring back from the monitor, like a ghost of who I used to be. Then a new notification popped up on my phone. A text from an unknown number. My stomach lurched as I read it. Check your personal email, now. No name, no context, just those 5 words, sharp and demanding. My first instinct was to ignore it, chalk it up to spam or a prank. But something in the tone, the urgency, mirrored the dread I'd felt during Victor's call. I fumbled to open my personal inbox on my phone, my fingers clumsy with nerves. There, nestled among junk mail and bills, was a message from an unlisted address. The subject line read, "You're not done yet." My heart stopped. I hesitated, my thumb hovering over the screen. What could this be? A threat? A lifeline? My mind darted back to Dana. Had she sent this to twist the knife further, to gloat over her victory? Or was it someone else, someone who knew more than I did about why I'd been cut off so abruptly? The email could be a trap, a way to drag me into something I wasn't prepared for, especially with Victor's meeting looming tomorrow. But ignoring it felt like ignoring a ticking bomb under my desk. I took a deep breath, the coffee on my desk now cold and untouched, and tapped to open the message. The first line hit me like a slap, turning my blood to ice. It wasn't just a taunt or a warning, it was a revelation, something I never saw coming. My eyes widened, scanning the words over and over, trying to make sense of the impossible. How could this be true? And if it was, what did it mean for everything I thought I knew about my firing, about Dana, about Victor's urgent meeting? I gripped the phone tighter, my world tilting once again, as a single question burned through me. Who sent this? And what do they want from me now? The email's first line lingered in my vision like a scar. They're hiding something bigger than your firing. My breath caught, a shiver racing down my spine as I read it again, hoping I'd misunderstood. But the words didn't change, each one sinking deeper into my already fractured mind. Hiding something bigger than being forced out of a job I'd poured my soul into for a decade. My fingers tightened around the phone, my pulse hammering so loud I could hear it in the silence of my home office. What could possibly be worse than this? I scrolled down the rest of the message, short but sharp, like a blade slipped under my ribs. Meet me at Carver's Diner, 9 a.m. tomorrow. Don't tell anyone. You'll understand why soon. No signature, no name, just an anonymous plea. Or was it a command? My stomach twisted as I reread it, trying to piece together who could be behind this. Was it a disgruntled coworker, someone else Dana had wronged, trying to pull me into their vendetta? Or worse, was it a setup, a way to drag me into some legal mess I couldn't escape? I'd heard whispers of shady deals at Hallwell and Knox, over the years things I'd chosen to ignore, because I trusted the system, trusted my place in it. But now, with my access stripped and my livelihood shattered, those whispers felt like screams. I set the phone down, my hands shaking as I pressed them against my desk. The room felt suffocating, the walls inching closer with every uneven breath. I wanted to delete the email, block the number, pretend I'd never seen it. But the words hiding something bigger looped in my mind, relentless and gnawing. What if this was my chance to uncover the real reason behind my termination? What if Dana's glossy excuses, restructuring, budget cuts were just a smokescreen for something darker? I thought of Victor's urgent call, the meeting tomorrow, and now this cryptic message. Too many pieces were moving at once, and I felt like a pawn caught in a game I didn't even know I was playing. The clock on the wall ticked past 8:30 a.m., each second pulling me closer to a decision I wasn't ready to make. I stood pacing the small space of my office, my bare feet cold against the hardwood. My mind raced back to the moment Dana had called me into her office last week, her tone icy, her eyes avoiding mine as she delivered the news. It's nothing personal, she'd said, her manicured nails tapping the desk like a metronome of indifference. Nothing personal. I'd wanted to shout to remind her of the sleepless nights I'd spent saving her precious clients, the family milestones I'd missed for the firm. But I'd stayed silent, swallowing my rage, thinking I'd find a way to rebuild. Now, though, with systems locked and secrets hinted at in shadowy emails, that silence felt like a mistake. My phone buzzed again, snapping me out of the memory. I flinched, half expecting another anonymous message, but it was a call from the office. Dana's name flashed on the screen and my heart jolted. Why was she calling now after it had so thoroughly cut me off? I hesitated, my thumb hovering over the answer button, a mix of dread and defiance swirling in my chest. Part of me wanted to ignore her, to let her stew in whatever mess she'd created by pushing me out. But another part, a louder, angrier part, wanted to hear her voice crack, to know she was already regretting her decision. I tapped the screen, lifting the phone to my ear, my voice steady, despite the storm inside me. Though. What do you want, Dana? There was a pause on the other end, a heavy silence that felt like it stretched forever. Then her voice came through strained and urgent, a far cry from the polished confidence I was used to. "I need your help," she said, almost pleading. "The systems, they're a mess. Vendors are calling, accounts are locked, and I can't access half the files. Please tell me you still have a way in." I froze, a bitter laugh bubbling up in my throat, though I held it back. So this was it. She'd realised too late that I wasn't just a replaceable cog in her machine. By 8:45, Dana was begging me to restore access, her perfect facade crumbling under the weight of her own arrogance. I leaned against the desk, my grip on the phone tightening as I reminded her of the cold truth. "I've been terminated, Dana. My access was deactivated. Remember, you made sure of that." Her sharp intake of breath told me she hadn't expected this, hadn't planned for life without me holding everything together. The line crackled with her desperation, and I could almost see the office spinning into chaos just as I'd expected. They weren't ready for this, and a dark, vindictive part of me relished the thought of them scrambling. But then she said something that stopped me cold, her voice dropping to a whisper. "There's more at stake here than you know. If we don't fix this today, it's not just my neck on the line, it's yours too." My blood ran cold, the anonymous email flashing through my mind. Well, what did she mean by that? What could possibly tie me to whatever mess she was in? I opened my mouth to demand answers, but the call dropped, leaving me staring at a blank screen, my heart pounding with a new terrifying question. What had I been dragged into without even realizing it? I stood frozen, the phone still in my hand, Dana's last words echoing in my head like a warning shot. "It's not just my neck on the line, it's yours too." What did she mean by that? My mind raced back to the anonymous email, the cryptic hint of something bigger hidden behind my firing. Was this what she was talking about? Or was she just grasping at straws, trying to manipulate me into helping her out of her self-made disaster? My chest tightened, a mix of anger and unease churning inside me as I set the phone down at the blank screen, reflecting the uncertainty in my eyes. I paced the room again, the hardwood creaking under my steps, each sound amplifying the chaos in my head. I'd spent years at Horwell and Knox, building a reputation as the one who fixed problems, the one clients trusted when things went south. I'd sacrificed weekends, birthdays, even my marriage's stability, all for a company that had discarded me like a used tissue. And now Dana had the audacity to drag me back in to dangle some vague threat over my head, like I owed her anything. I didn't. I couldn't. But the fear in her voice, it wasn't fake. It clawed at me, stirring up doubts I didn't want to face. What if she was right? What if whatever mess she was in somehow looped back to me? The phone buzzed again, snapping me out of my spiral. I glanced at the screen, half expecting Dana's name, but it was a new number one I didn't recognize. My thumb hesitated over the answer button, a knot forming in my stomach. I hit accept, my voice sharp and guarded. "Hello, is this Alex?" The voice on the other end was polished professional but laced with frustration. "This is Margaret from Henderson Industries. I've been trying to reach someone at Horwell and Knox for hours. Your name came up as the primary contact on our account. I need access to the latest reports, and no one seems to know what's going on." My heart skipped a beat. Henderson Industries, one of our biggest clients. They were calling me directly, even after I'd been cut off. I cleared my throat, trying to keep my tone steady. "Margaret, I'm no longer with the firm. I'm sorry, but you'll need to speak with Dana or someone else in the office." Her silence on the other end was deafening, followed by a sharp exhale. "That's unacceptable. I've already spoken to Dana. She couldn't help, and frankly, she didn't seem to have a clue. We've worked with you for years, Alex. I trust you, not her." I closed my eyes, pinching the bridge of my nose as a headache began to bloom. This was exactly what I'd feared, clients reaching out confused and frustrated, expecting me to swoop in and save the day. But I couldn't. I didn't have access, didn't have the authority, didn't even have a job anymore. still hearing Margaret's exasperation, her reliance on me stirred something deep, a mix of pride and bitter resentment. I'd built that trust brick by brick, and now Dana was fumbling it all away. Before I could respond, another call beeped through. I glanced at the screen, Miller and Associates. Another client. My pulse quickened as I told Margaret I'd get back to her, switching over to the new call, with a sinking feeling. "This is Alex," I said, bracing myself. The voice on the other end was just as frustrated, just as insistent. "Alex, it's Tom from Miller. What's going on over there? Our system updates are delayed and no one can give me a straight answer. I need to speak with you now." I felt the walls closing in again, the weight of their expectations pressing down on me. Dana had tried to cover rerouting client concerns to herself or the new team, but it wasn't working. Trust isn't something you can reassign with a memo or a quick email. These people wanted me, relied on me, and I was powerless to help them. Or was I? The thought flickered through my mind, unbidden and dangerous. What if I could find a way back in just to stabilize things? Not for Dana, but for the clients, and maybe, just maybe, to uncover whatever bigger secret was lurking behind all this. I ended the call with Tom promising to follow up, though I had no idea how. My gaze drifted to my laptop still sitting on the desk, a silent reminder of the access I no longer had. But there were ways, weren't there? Backdoors, old logins, favors. I could call in. My hands hovered over the keyboard, temptation gnawing at me. If I did this, I'd be crossing a line, risking legal trouble, maybe worse. But if Dana was right, if my neck was already on the line, what did I have to lose? The phone buzzed yet again, another unfamiliar number flashing on the screen. My stomach dropped as I stared at it, a new wave of dread washing over me. How many more clients would call today? Each one piling on the pressure, each one a reminder of the life I'd lost. And more importantly, how long could I resist the urge to dive back in to uncover the truth, even if it meant risking everything I had left? The phone buzzed incessantly on the table, each vibration a tiny jolt to my already frayed nerves. I stared at the unfamiliar number flashing across the screen, my mind still reeling from the back-to-back calls from Margaret and Tom. Their voices, laced with frustration and urgency, echoed in my head, a reminder of the trust I'd built and lost at Horwell and Knox. My fingers twitched, torn between answering and letting it go to voicemail. What if it was another client? Another plea for help I couldn't give? Or worse, what if it was Dana, ready to double down on her cryptic threats? I exhaled sharply, snatching the phone up on the last ring my voice clipped. "This is Alex." On the other end, a woman's voice came through, calm but assertive, the kind that commands attention without raising its volume. "Alex, this is Patricia Chen from Henderson Industries. I'm sorry to call so abruptly, but we've got a situation here, and I'd like to discuss it with you directly. Are you free for lunch today?" My breath caught in my throat. Patricia Chen. Not just any contact at Henderson, but the senior director, someone I'd only met a handful of times at corporate events. She wasn't the type to make personal calls unless something significant was at stake. I fumbled for words, my mind racing through possibilities. Was this about the reports Margaret mentioned, or something else entirely? Yes, I can make time. Well, where should I meet you? She named a high-end bistro downtown, one of those places with crisp white tablecloths and waiters who hover just out of sight. 1 o'clock. I'll reserve a table under my name. See you then, Alex. The line clicked off before I could ask for more details, leaving me standing there, phone still pressed to my ear, a storm of questions brewing in my chest. Why me? Why now? I was no longer part of the firm, no longer tied to their accounts. Yet here was Patricia reaching out as if I still held some key to their problems. I glanced at the clock, barely 10 in the morning. 3 hours to stew in my own thoughts, to replay every interaction I'd had with Henderson, searching for clues. I paced the apartment, my footsteps heavy against the hardwood, the silence of the empty space, amplifying my unease. What did Patricia want? Was this another desperate client call, or could it be something more, something tied to Dana's warning about my neck being on the line? The anonymous email I'd received weeks ago flickered in my mind again, its vague hint of a bigger issue at Holwell and Knox gnawing at me. I had no answers, only a growing sense of dread that I was being pulled into a game I didn't understand. By the time I arrived at the bistro, my palms were sweaty, my tie feeling like a noose around my neck. The place smelled of fresh bread and expensive cologne, and I spotted Patricia immediately seated at a corner table with a view of the city skyline. She stood as I approached, her handshake firm, her smile polite but guarded. "Alex, thank you for coming on such short notice. Please sit." We exchanged small talk over menus, but I could sense the undercurrent of tension in her posture, the way her fingers tapped lightly against the table. Finally, after the waiter took our orders, she leaned in, her voice low. "I'll get straight to the point. Henderson has been reviewing our partnership with Horwell and Knox, and frankly, we're concerned. Since your departure, there's been a noticeable drop in responsiveness and expertise. We've relied on you for years, and we're not confident in the current team." My stomach twisted, a mix of validation and frustration surging through me. I'd known this was coming. Margaret's call had hinted at it, but hearing it from Patricia, someone with real decision-making power, hit differently. I opened my mouth to explain I was no longer with the firm, but she raised a hand to stop me. "I'm aware of your situation, Alex. That's why I'm here. We'd like to offer you a consulting role, independent of Horwell and Knox. We need someone we trust to oversee our account to ensure things don't fall apart. The contract would be substantial. Triple the value of what you earned monthly at the firm." The words hung in the air, heavy and tempting. Triple. My mind spun with the possibilities: financial stability, a chance to reclaim some dignity after the humiliation of being let go. I could pay off lingering debts, rebuild what I'd lost. But there was a catch, wasn't there? There always was. Working independently for Henderson could put me in direct conflict with Holwell and Knox, maybe even violate some non-compete clause buried in my old contract. And what about Dana's warning? Was this the kind of move that would put my neck further on the line? Patricia slid a folder across the table, the contract already drafted, her pen resting on top like an invitation. "Take a look. We can discuss terms if there's anything you'd like adjusted. But I'll need a decision soon today, ideally." My hand hovered over the folder, hesitation warring with temptation. I'd been burned, before discarded by a company I'd poured my soul into. Could I trust Henderson to be any different? Or was I about to sign myself into a new kind of trouble, one I couldn't see coming? Before I could decide, my phone buzzed in my pocket, the vibration a sharp reminder of the outside world. I glanced at the screen under the table, Dana's name glaring back at me. My pulse quickened. Why was she calling now, just as I sat on the edge of this life-changing decision? What did she know, and how much deeper would her words pull me into the mess I was trying to escape? I stared at Dana's name flashing on my phone, the screen's glow a harsh intrusion in the dimly lit bistro. My heart thudded, each vibration syncing with the pulse in my temples. Should I answer? Ignore it? The weight of Patricia's expectant gaze pinned me to my seat, the contract folder still under my hovering hand, a silent ultimatum between us. I mumbled an apology, slipping the phone back into my pocket, but the unanswered call gnawed at me. What did Dana want now, and why at this exact moment? Was she somehow connected to this offer, or was I just paranoid, seeing conspiracies in every corner? Patricia's voice cut through my spiraling thoughts, smooth but firm. "Alex, I understand this is a big decision, but Henderson needs clarity and we need it soon. I'm not asking for blind loyalty, just a partnership we can rely on. She gestured to the folder, her eyes searching mine for a hint of commitment. I nodded, absently flipping it open. The terms stared back at me in crisp black ink: a six-figure consulting fee, quarterly reviews, and a clause for exclusivity on their strategic projects. It was a golden ticket, a chance to stand on my own after Horwell and Knox had spit me out like I was nothing. But the fine print felt like a leash tying me to stakes I couldn't fully grasp yet. Over our plates of seared salmon and arugula salad, I tried to focus on her words as she outlined Henderson's vision expansion plans, market challenges, the gaps left by my old firm's incompetence. Each bite of food tasted like cardboard, my mind racing with the implications of signing. This wasn't just a job, it was a declaration of independence, a middle finger to the company that had undervalued me. But it also meant stepping into a minefield. If Holwell and Knox got wind of this, they'd come after me, legal clauses or not. And Dana, her cryptic warnings about my neck being on the line echoed louder now. Did she know something about Henderson, or was she just trying to keep me in check? I sipped my water, the cold glass grounding me for a moment. Patricia, I appreciate the vote of confidence. Truly. But I need to know, what's the real risk here? If I take this, am I walking into a crossfire? I don't see. My voice was steadier than I felt, but inside I was a tangle of doubt and ambition. She leaned back, her expression unreadable for a beat, then offered a small, calculated smile. Every move in this industry carries risk, Alex. You know that. But Henderson isn't looking to burn bridges. We're securing our future, and we want you as a partner in that. The question is, are you ready to own your worth? Her words hit like a punch, stirring something raw and hungry in me. Own my worth. How long had I let others define it, Holwell and Knox? Dana, even the clients who'd taken my late night calls for granted. I traced the edge of the contract with my finger, the paper smooth. Under my touch, a tangible promise of control. But control was an illusion, wasn't it? I'd learned that the hard way, when the firm cut me loose without so much as a goodbye. What if Henderson did the same down the line? What if this was just another pretty cage? As the waiter cleared our plates, Patricia slid a pen toward me, her gesture casual, but laden with expectation. I'll give you until the end of lunch to think it over. After that, I'll need to explore other options. The deadline tightened the knot in my chest. I nodded, gripping the pen like a lifeline, my mind still wrestling with the what-ifs. The bistro's hum-clinking glasses murmured, conversations faded into a dull roar. As I scrawled my initials on the first page, a tentative step. It wasn't a full signature, not yet. I needed one more push, one more assurance I wasn't signing my own downfall. Then my phone buzzed again, a relentless reminder of unfinished business. I glanced at the screen, under the table, Dana again. Twice in 20 minutes. My stomach lurched. What was so urgent that she couldn't wait? Was she watching, somehow knowing I was on the verge of breaking free or stepping into a trap? I looked up at Patricia, her eyes still on me, waiting for my final move. But now a new fear clawed at me. Whatever Dana had to say, it might change everything. Should I answer and risk derailing this moment, or sign the contract and face the consequences blind? I sat there, pen hovering over the contract, the weight of Patricia's gaze pressing down on me like a physical force. My phone buzzed again in my pocket. Dana's name, a persistent ghost haunting the edges of my focus. I couldn't ignore it anymore. Her insistence felt like a warning I wasn't sure I could afford to dismiss. My thumb hesitated over the screen, torn between the urge to answer and the fear of what I might hear. Excuse me, Patricia, I muttered, pushing my chair back with a scrape that echoed too loudly in the quiet bistro. I need to take this. Just a moment. Her nod was curt, her eyes narrowing slightly, as if she sensed the shift in my resolve. I stepped toward the hallway near the restrooms, the murmur of the restaurant fading behind me as I pressed the phone to my ear. Dana, what is it? My voice came out sharper than I intended, laced with the stress of the moment I'd just left at the table. Alex, finally. She breathed, her tone urgent, almost frantic. I've been trying to reach you. It's a mess over here. The systems are down, completely down. Client files are unrecoverable, payments are delayed, and I can't get a single answer from IT. Everyone keeps saying the same thing. Lisa used to handle that. I don't even know where to start. My stomach dropped. Lisa. Of course it came back to her, my sister, the glue that had held the family business together, until she walked away 2 years ago after that brutal fight with Dad. She'd been the one who knew every password, every workaround, every vendor contact. And now with her gone, Dana, our younger cousin who'd reluctantly stepped into her role, was drowning. I rubbed my temple the contract, and Patricia fading to static in my mind. Dana, slow down. What do you mean, unrecoverable? There has to be a backup, right? There's nothing, Alex. I've checked every drive, every cloud account I can access. It's like she took the keys with her when she left. I'm scrambling, but clients are calling furious, and I've got invoices piling up. I need help. You worked with her closer than anyone do. You know anything, any way to fix this? I leaned against the wall, the cold plaster grounding me as my thoughts raced. I hadn't spoken to Lisa in months, not since her last cold text, refusing to come to Mum's birthday. That rift had split us all, not just her and Dad, but I'd buried it under work and ambition, pretending I didn't miss her sharp mind or late-night strategy sessions. Could I even reach her now after all the silence? And even if I did, would she help or slam the door in my face again? Dana, I don't know. I am in the middle of something huge right now. Can't you call someone else, maybe Dad? My words felt hollow, a weak attempt to push the burden away while I wrestled with my own crossroads. Dad's useless on this, Alex. He's checked out, still sulking over Lisa. You're the only one who might know something. Please, I'm begging you. If we don't fix this soon, we're going to lose half our clients by the end of the week. Her voice cracked, and I could picture her at the office, surrounded by chaos, her usual calm, fraying at the edges. Guilt clawed at me. I'd been so focused on breaking free, on signing with Henderson to prove I wasn't just the guy Horwell and Knox discarded, that I'd ignored the mess back home. The family business wasn't my responsibility anymore, or so I'd told myself. But hearing Dana's desperation, I felt the old ties pulling tight, binding me to a past I couldn't outrun. Yet Patricia was waiting, the contract still unsigned, my future dangling on a thread. How could I juggle both without losing everything? I glanced back toward the bistro's main room, catching a glimpse of Patricia checking her watch, her patience visibly thinning. My heart pounded as I gripped the phone harder. Dana, I'll call you back. Give me an hour. I'll figure something out. I hung up before she could protest, my mind a storm of conflicting loyalties. Could I really turn my back on family now when they needed me most? Or was this the moment to prioritize myself, for once sign the contract and let them fend for themselves? As I walked back to the table, Patricia's expectant stare locked onto me, and I knew whatever choice I made next would come at a cost I wasn't ready to pay. As I slid back into my seat across from Patricia, the weight of Dana's plea hung over me like a storm cloud ready to burst. My fingers brushed the edge of the contract, the paper suddenly feeling heavier, sharper, as if it could cut through the fragile balance I was trying to hold. Patricia's gaze was piercing, her perfectly manicured nails tapping rhythmically on the table, each click a countdown to a decision I wasn't ready to make. Everything all right? Her voice was smooth, but there was an edge to it, a subtle probe that told me she'd noticed the shift in my demeanor. I forced a smile, though it felt brittle, like it might crack under the pressure of the secrets I was juggling. Yeah, just a family thing. Sorry about that. I waved it off, but my mind was already splintering, half of me still in that hallway, with Dana's desperate voice echoing the other half here, tethered to the promise of a new start with Henderson. I picked up the pen again, rolling it between my fingers, stalling. Signing this contract meant freedom, a clean break from the baggage of Horwell and Knox, from the family business that had been a noose around my neck for years. But Dana's words, unrecoverable chaos. Lisa gnawed at me, reminding me of ties I couldn't sever as easily as I'd hoped. Patricia leaned forward slightly, her eyes narrowing. Alex, I don't mean to rush you, but I've got another meeting in 30 minutes. Henderson's offer isn't indefinite. If you're not ready, we can reschedule, but I can't guarantee the terms will stay the same. Her words landed like a punch. I knew what she meant. Doubt was a deal breaker in this game. If I hesitated now, I risked losing the trust I'd fought tooth and nail to build. My clients, the ones who'd pledged to follow me, deserved to know I was all in. My name had weight, as I'd proven time and again, clawing my way up after being discarded by Horwell and Knox, like yesterday's news. Yet the thought of Dana scrambling alone, the business teetering on collapse, tugged at something deeper, a loyalty I thought I'd buried. Just then my phone buzzed again, a sharp vibration against my thigh. I didn't need to look to know it was Dana. The urgency of her earlier call pulsed through me, a reminder of the ticking clock back home. I shifted in my seat, the bistro's warm light suddenly feeling oppressive, the murmur of other diners a dull roar in my ears. I wanted to silence it to focus on the future in front of me, but guilt was a relentless shadow. What if the business folded under this mess? What if Dana couldn't recover and it became one more fracture in our already broken family? Alex? Patricia's voice cut through my spiraling thoughts, sharper this time, impatience creeping in. I met her gaze, my chest tight, and realized I couldn't dodge this any longer. The pen felt like a weapon in my hand. Signing would be a strike against my past, a declaration of independence, but at what cost? Not signing, though, could unravel everything I'd built. I opened my mouth to speak, to buy myself just one more minute, when the bistro door swung open with a jingle and a familiar figure stepped inside. My breath caught. Dana. Her hair was disheveled, her coat half unbuttoned as if she'd thrown it on in a hurry, her eyes scanning the room until they locked on mine. Panic surged through me. She'd driven across town, probably straight from the office, to confront me in person. There was no escaping now, no pretending I could compartmentalize this. She started toward our table, her stride purposeful, her expression a storm of desperation and determination that mirrored the chaos I felt inside. Patricia followed my gaze, her brow furrowing as she registered the interruption. Friend of yours? She asked, her tone clipped, already sizing up the situation with a cool professional detachment. I swallowed hard, my mind racing for an explanation, a way to diffuse this, before it exploded in front of the one person whose opinion could make or break my future. Dana, what are you doing here? I managed, standing halfway, my voice low but strained. She stopped a few feet away, her hands clenching at her sides, and I could see the weight of everything she was carrying in the tight set of her jaw. Whatever she was about to say, I knew it would change the trajectory of this moment, and maybe everything after it. My heart thudded as I waited, caught between two worlds, colliding, unsure which one I'd be forced to sacrifice. I stood halfway out of my chair, my pulse hammering in my ears, as Dana closed the distance between us. Her eyes were wild, glistening with unshed tears, or maybe sheer frustration, I couldn't tell. Either way, her presence here in this bistro in front of Patricia was a grenade, tossed into the fragile negotiations I'd spent months building. My mind scrambled for a way out, a way to shield this moment from exploding into a scene that would cost me everything. Dana, what are you doing here? I repeated, my voice tighter now, almost a hiss. I glanced at Patricia, whose expression had shifted from mild impatience to guarded curiosity. Her fingers had stopped tapping. She was watching us like a hawk, assessing every nuance. I could feel the weight of her judgment, the silent question of whether I could handle my personal messes without letting them bleed into business. I had to see you, Dana said, her voice low but trembling with urgency. You didn't answer my last call, Alex. I can't do this alone. The numbers came in, we're hemorrhaging clients. 3 more jumped ship this morning. If you leave now, there's no coming back from this. Her words were a deluge, each one landing heavier than the last, dragging me back into the quicksand of Holwell and Knox. I felt the heat rise in my chest, a mix of anger and guilt. She had no right to ambush me like this, to lay our family's failures at my feet, in front of a stranger. But the desperation in her eyes mirrored something I'd felt too many times myself, those late nights staring at spreadsheets, willing the red to turn black, knowing it was more than numbers on a page. It was our legacy, our father's name, the weight of every sacrifice made to keep it alive. Dana, this isn't the time, I said through gritted teeth, gesturing subtly toward Patricia, hoping she'd take the hint and back off. But Dana didn't budge. If anything, her stance grew more rigid, her hands uncurling from fists to point at the contract on the table. Is that it? She asked, her voice rising just enough to draw the attention of nearby diners. You're signing away everything we've built. For what, Alex? To prove a point, to stick it to the past. You think running off to Henderson will erase what we owe each other? Her accusation sliced through me sharper than I expected. I wanted to snap back to tell her I'd earned the right to walk away after years of being sidelined, undervalued, and blamed for every misstep at Holwell and Knox. But I couldn't not hear, not with Patricia watching her silence louder than any words. I could almost hear her recalculating my worth, questioning if I was the kind of partner Henderson needed, someone who could keep their house in order. Dana, please, I said, lowering my voice, stepping closer in an attempt to shield our conversation. We can talk about this later. I'm in the middle of something. No, we can't, she cut in, her voice cracking. There is no later if you sign that. You're not just leaving the company, Alex. You're leaving me to clean up a mess I didn't make. You're leaving Lisa to watch it all fall apart. She's asking questions, you know. She's old enough to notice the tension, to hear the fights. What am I supposed to tell her when it's gone? Lisa's name hit me like a sucker punch. My niece, bright curious, too young to understand the web of resentment and obligation that tangled our family, but old enough to feel its shadow. I pictured her wide eyes the way she'd looked at me last Christmas, asking if I'd always be around to help with her science projects. I'd promised her I would, but now that promise felt like a lie I hadn't meant to tell. I turned slightly, catching Patricia's gaze. Her face was unreadable now, a mask of professionalism, but I knew she'd heard every word. My palms were clammy, the pen still in my hand, like a dead weight. I wanted to explain, to assure her this was under control, but how could I when I didn't believe it myself? Dana's breathing was ragged beside me, her plea hanging in the air, and I realized I was seconds away from a choice I couldn't undo. Alex? Patricia said suddenly, her tone measured but firm. Perhaps we should pause this. I can give you a moment to sort out whatever this is. But I need to know you're committed. Henderson doesn't invest in uncertainty. She stood smoothing her blazer, her eyes flicking between Dana and me with a finality that made my stomach drop. As she stepped away toward the counter, leaving us in a bubble of strained silence, I felt the walls closing in. Dana's stare burned into me, waiting for an answer I didn't have, while the unsigned contract on the table seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Which way would I turn, toward the future I'd fought for or the past I couldn't escape? I stood frozen, the weight of Patricia's words echoing in my mind as she walked away, her heels clicking against the bistro's tiled floor. Henderson doesn't invest in uncertain. It wasn't just a warning, it was a verdict on my ability to keep my life from unraveling in front of her. Dana's ragged breathing beside me was a tether, pulling me back to the mess I'd tried so hard to escape. The unsigned contract on the table stared up at me, a symbol of the freedom I'd clawed for, now teetering on the edge of collapse. Dana, you can't do this to me, I whispered, my voice barely holding steady. I turned to face her fully, my hands trembling as I gripped the edge of the chair for support. You can't just show up and dump everything on me like this. I've spent months, years trying to build something for myself outside of Holwell and Knox. You have no idea what I've sacrificed to get here. Her eyes narrowed, glistening with a mix of hurt and defiance. And you have no idea what it's like to stay, she shot back, her voice low but cutting. To wake up every day knowing you're the only one left holding the pieces together. Dad's gone. Alex, Mum checked out years ago. It's just me now trying to keep the lights on to keep Lisa from seeing how bad it really is. And you're, what? Walking away like none of it matters. Her words slammed into me, each one, a reminder of the roles we'd been forced into. After Dad's death, her as the soldier on the front lines, me as the deserter who couldn't stomach the fight. I wanted to scream that it wasn't fair that I'd been suffocated by the company long before I left, that every decision I made was second-guessed, every idea shot down, until I felt like a ghost in my own family's legacy. But looking into her eyes, I saw something beyond anger, fear. Raw, unfiltered fear of losing everything we'd ever known. Dana, I'm not abandoning you, I said softer now, though the frustration still burned in my chest. I'm trying to survive. Holwell and Knox. It was killing me. The endless meetings, the blame, the way they looked at me like I was the reason we were sinking. I had to get out. This deal with Henderson, it's my way forward. Don't you want that for me? She let out a bitter laugh, shaking her head as she crossed her arms. Surviving isn't the same as running, Alex. You think I don't want to get out too? But I can't. Someone has to stay and fight for what's left. And Lisa, she needs us. She needs you. You can't just pretend she doesn't exist because it's easier. Lisa again. Her name was a dagger twisting deeper each time Dana wielded it. I thought of the last time I'd seen her, her small hands fumbling with a model rocket, her face lighting up when I promised to help her launch it in the spring. I hadn't been back since. I told myself it was because of work, because of distance, but deep down I knew the truth. I was avoiding the questions in her eyes, the ones I didn't have answers for. How could I explain to a child that her family's foundation was crumbling, that her uncle was choosing to walk away? I glanced toward Patricia at the counter, her back to us, as she ordered a coffee, giving me a fleeting reprieve from her scrutiny. But I knew she was still watching, still weighing my worth. My mind raced, torn between the contract that could redefine my future and the sister whose life was unraveling in front of me. I felt like I was standing on a tightrope, one wrong step away from losing everything, either the deal that promised independence or the family I couldn't seem to escape. Dana, I hear you, I said finally, my throat tight. I do, but I can't fix this for you. I've tried. God knows I've tried. If I stay, I'll drown with you, and then what good am I to anyone? I paused, searching her face for any sign of understanding, but her expression only hardened. Then what are you saying? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper, each word laced with dread. That you're done for good. Because if you sign that contract, Alex, there's no turning back. You're not just leaving the company, you're leaving us. Her ultimatum hung in the air, heavy and suffocating, as my gaze dropped to the pen still in my hand. My heart pounded, the room tilting slightly as the weight of her words settled over me. I had seconds to decide to choose between a clean break and a fractured past that refused to let go. But as I opened my mouth to respond, a shadow fell over the table. Patricia was back, her expression unreadable, and I realized the moment of truth had arrived, whether I was ready or not. What would I say to either of them when every word felt like a betrayal?